Hello students and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we are going to see as to what are the reasons for the downturn in the Indian market. Now, interestingly, we have Donald Trump's picture here. So, does he have something to do with it? We'll understand that as well. So, let's quickly move ahead. So, what is the news all about? What has happened is in the last 6 days, there has been consistent decline in the share market of India. So BSE, as you can see, it is declining, and over the past 6 days, it has fallen down by around 2.3%. Now, what is the reason behind it? So one reason is probably Donald Trump or his directive that was given by him few days back. So what Donald Trump has said is, he issued directive saying that we will restore the tariffs which were there on steel, and we will increase the tariffs which are there on aluminium. What does this mean actually? See, tariff on steel, it was taken back. Now Donald Trump is restoring it. As far as tariff on aluminium is concerned, it will be increased by 25%. What are tariffs? Tariffs are the fees that you charge when some country exports their product to you. So let's say XYZ country is exporting to USA. USA will put a tariff, a penalty, not a penalty, but a fees for their products to be coming to USA. Because of it, what happens is, if a product is of 100 rupees and you impose a tariff of 25 rupees, so its cost becomes what? 100 plus 25 equals 125. Now, why this is done? This is done because we are allowing a product in our country. Why should we allow? We have our own industry, so that our industries don't hamper. That is why we are charging you 25 rupees to bring in your product. Then why does the government completely disallow it? It cannot completely disallow, because one thing, the government is earning direct 25 rupees revenue over here. In fact, some of the tariffs are so high, it is 100% also. So revenue is collected. At the same time, there might be some things which we would compulsorily need from that country. So if we do not allow other goods and services from that country, they may stop those compulsory exports also to us. That is why a nation has to allow. But of course, there will be certain tariffs which is seen over here. Now, this was the directive which was made by Donald Trump. How does this directive impact? Now, because of this directive, what will happen is, whatever Asian countries are there who are exporting their steel to USA, now will not be exporting to USA because the tariff is high. So what we can see now is, these exports, rather than going to USA, will now be more and more coming to India. So what will happen? We can see potential dumping of Asian exports to India. Now, if Asian exporters keep on dumping the goods into India, what will happen? Our own industries, indigenous domestic industries which are there, will find it difficult and will have to compete with these goods and services being dumped from other Asian countries, which will lead to increased competition, which can lead to a downward revision of prices. Why downward revision of prices? Now, Asian steel is also coming, steel and aluminium in the Indian market. That means more steel and aluminium at cheaper price. So our industry will also have to lower the prices. That is why downward revision is then possible. And of course, increased competition. Downward revision means what? Less profit, or even at times it can be losses as well. So as a result of which, there might be a downward spiral that will start. Now, another important thing about Donald Trump's directive was not just the directive itself, but also the timing of the directive. What do I mean by that? Presently, India's industry was in a moment of revising the steel prices. They basically wanted to revise the steel prices sort of upwards. Because why? Because there have been a slowdown. If you take an example of JSW Steel, it stated that its Q3 earnings was about 1800 crore rupees less than the same earning previous year. So that is one of the reasons. Basically, what is happening? The revenue is going down, the profit is going down. So they wanted to revise the prices upward in order to increase the revenue and specifically the profit. In the time when an industry needs to increase the prices, at that time, if dumping starts and the companies are required to lower the prices, the company is going to take a double hit. We wanted higher price, but we can't even keep it safe, let alone increasing. We would rather have to decrease it, as a result of which profits may further go down and revenues will further go down. Right? I hope this is absolutely clear. Another thing over here was the ongoing investigation into imports of non-alloy and steel products. So India's Director General for Trade Remedies had an ongoing investigation with respect to the imports that are coming to India, right? All those things were happening, which at the same time directive of Donald Trump has come. So the industry is as such, it's not that we would say it is not doing well or it is doing terribly, it's just that it is not growing faster, so would rather needed a push, but that push seems more difficult in such a scenario after the directive. And because of this directive, what has happened? The market realizes, the sentiment of market realizes that India's steel industry, aluminum industry, etc., the future is not that bright. So what they would try to do, they would try to take out money from the shares in Indian companies and probably invest elsewhere. So that is why you will see foreign money moving away. Even domestically we may take out, but foreign would also take out. So the FIIs and FPIs, they have been increasingly moving money towards the US bonds. They are moving money towards the US bonds. So money is being taken out from share market and moving towards US bonds. Now, why is that happening? That is happening because there is a relationship between bond yield and share market, and that relationship is inverse. Means that when the share market is going to go down, the bond yield is going to go up, or when the bond yield goes down, share market can go up. Why is that the case? And I am saying generally that is the case. Generally, not always, but generally they have an inverse relationship. As why that is the case? Because both compete for investment funds. Just understand that you have 100 rupees of total investment to be made. Now you realize that the future of steel companies, other companies in India or in any country for that matter, is not good. So instead of investing that money in the share market, you would then invest that money in the bond market, in the, they are investing in US bond market. So earlier, if this 100 was divided as, let's say, 50-50, now some of the money would be taken away from the share market, let's say 25 rupees, and it is gone over here. So 50 minus 25, only 25 remains invested, and 50 plus 25, 75 remains invested. I hope this is absolutely clear. Since the total investment is constant, there is always a trade-off generally between share market and the stock market. So it is very clear, when bond yields rise, of course they offer high returns, and when they offer high returns, it will prompt the investors to move the money from share market to the bond market. Now, what is the outlook for the near future? Now, the outlook for the near future is not that bright presently, but not necessarily. Now, why is that the case? See, previously also Donald Trump has been president of United States of America, right? And his policies can be said to be generally conservative and related to deglobalization. Deglobalization. For example, increase in tariffs. What is that? Sort of a deglobalization. Conservative, protective of their industry, deglobalization. Now, of course, protection of industry is good, but then we have seen previously also Donald Trump as the US president is trying to compete with the likes of India in tariffs, which is not the right thing to do, because India is a developing country. India is a developing country, USA is a developed country. So in the previous term, Donald Trump has asked for reduction in tariffs in the Harley Davidson motorcycles, and he had come up with a suggestion that if India and USA has some tariffs, so it said that USA will also reduce the tariff to X%, India should also reduce it to X%. Now this does not make sense. Why? Because if in India the tariff is of 100%, and in USA the tariff is of 20%, If USA says we will make it zero and ask India to also make it zero, it is not same, because India will be required to reduce 100% of the tariffs, which is not feasible. So what can be done? India rather wanted that its tariff to be reduced by same amount, not to the same level, but by same amount. Means what? From 20, if USA is making it zero, India can also reduce 20% of tariff and make it 80%. So we were okay with this, but Donald Trump wanted this. This is a very conservative and deglobalized strategy or the policy which Donald Trump has showcased previously also. And the same thing can be visible now, which will lead to what? Slowing global growth. And of course it will influence the market. Why slow global growth? Because of huge tariff which US is also making, the global trade will not happen much. Everyone will start to look inwards rather than look outwards. Deglobalization will happen, the trade will reduce, and at the same time there can be a possibility of trade war under the President Donald Trump, USA President Donald Trump. Now, trade war generally, India would not get involved as such, but we have seen trade wars between China and USA, and the same thing can happen, which is not good for the in world economy in general, and specifically it will have repercussions on India as well. At the same time, China is another biscuit altogether. What it does is devalues its currency and goes to another different level altogether when it comes to trade war. As a result of which, when you talk about the outlook, it looks sort of sluggish. At the same time, don't forget the geopolitical tensions that are there. Previously, Ukraine-Russia war was there, and then the conflict that is going on, Israel-Palestinian conflict, so on and so forth. So the outlook sort of looks sluggish, but miracles do happen. Thank you.